Hey everyone, I am here today with Reece Presley. He is one of the stars in the film that we just released called We Came to Wreck Everything. It's fantastic. Go check it out now before you watch this interview because there may or may not be spoilers. You've been forewarned. Reece, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Michael. I'm doing really well. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. So why don't we start off with something I love asking actors is tell me a little bit about the role and what it was that drew you to this character.
So Tommy Lee Gibson is a ex-military. That's his profession. He's, or I am rather this lost soul in a way.
Hmm.
No longer having that purpose of being in something that's structured, discharged from the military. I have some of my friends I still keep in contact with who do show up in this, Riley and is chief among them. And I'm just trying to start a new life. So really what drew me to the project was just the complexity of Tommy Lee, like the fact that, as you'll see with Brooke, myself, and Riley, there's a bit of a triangle there amongst also reigniting this friendship with the lovely with Raleigh's role, and trying to be able to kind of keep that all in the space and have these things happen in real time in the film as you'll watch them. It's a lot. It's great. It's all about the relationships.
Yeah, I mean it's great to hear that too. I mean it's such an interesting character who gets stuck in like quite literally, digging himself into a deeper and deeper hole as the movie progresses and more obstacles are coming in there like that. Those layers and those depths that you get to play with are really compelling in the film. Um, with such a deep character like this, like was there anything that kind of that you discovered either about yourself or as a performer in kind of wearing the skin of Tommy Lee Gibson?
Oh, absolutely. I think this was the first time that I had been given a like a chance to do this. So AK really, um, I guess he might not have known at the time, but to be able to have a chance to dig in and create these different relationships with everyone, and
Mhm.
then on the day, as a performer, realizing that you can do all that homework in the background, and you have this wonderful script that was written, and you use it as you look for clues, but then you get there on the day, and someone like Jason or Raleigh or Celeste or Derek, they're all giving you something different, and you just
Mhm.
have to be present. Andrew B, who plays Cotton, they're giving you all these things, and if you're kind of stuck, like what I think I was prior to this film, was kind of stuck in a bit of a process. This one was the first one in my mind that kicked off. Just be present when you're there and trust that the work is underneath and magic will happen.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah. All right. We can say it happened here. I'll back you up on that one. That's really interesting. I mean, you kind of got like a little bit of a boot camp in that type of process because I think your character interacts with almost everyone else throughout the film. I mean, you've got scenes with like just about everyone, and you still have that same kind of intensity, and as things are building and mounting and progressing in the film. It makes so much sense that you'd have to really find that space to kind of bounce off of the actors as well as AK and kind of find that on set as well. I mean, it's really hard to kind of find that before you show up there.
it was a hell of an exercise to be able to go. Very grateful for those other artists to just allow me to be able to work through the mud and of all these different things.
The trio of you guys have like a decent amount of levity despite being very grounded and taking everything very seriously throughout it. But the story itself almost paints you guys almost as the fool in certain situations. I'm curious how, like, as a performer, like, were there certain things that you remember doing very consciously, being aware of that kind of duality, or did you often try and like kind of ground yourself and just kind of be very, very like, take every moment as seriously as you can to kind of heighten that side?
It's good. It's a good question. I remember I started working with a mentor. He's now my mentor. Right? I've done working with him at the time of this film, and throughout the years, many wonderful teachings and beautiful nuggets that I would get from him in training. I remember right off the bat, it was, what do you get for free as a performer?
Mm.
I mean, right now I'm sitting here in my place. I got a light, like a ring light, ring light shining on me. It's casting a bit of like I look a little, morally ambiguous. And so you get this kind of look that you don't have to really do perhaps too much. I think it becomes, if you push it in that realm, if I become a bit more hard, and portray that the whole time,
Mhm.
then uh, there's not a lot of first of all, there's not a lot of room to go with it, and then it's kind of becomes a little bit like, well, all right, there's nothing. What you see is what you get, and in knowing that, I kind of just was still being truthful. So to your point, like I did play it where it was moments of to AK's writing that came out in the dynamics between what he had written for us and what other people were saying about us.
I'm curious if there's, you know, because you've done such a breadth of scenes and emotions and both high intensity, low intensity, secretly high intensity, even though it feels low. Is there a moment or a scene that kind of stands out in your mind as like either something that you're particularly proud of or something that you remember being like one of your favorite moments on set during the production of this film?
There's a moment where Jason, who plays Riley, is laying it all out for us in the trailer, and we're flanking him. Myself and Derek are flanking him, and we're drinking a little bit.
Hmm.
It's just like I don't believe I utter anything, and it's just I watch back and I go, I that's what listening looks like.
Mhm.
To me, like that, or and then if it was a scene with dialogue, it would be the scene with Brooke on the phone. Those kind of scenes really drew me in. I think at the time when I was, if we're going back in time here, I would say, and you would ask me this question, I would say the scene where Riley and I, the final scene where we getting each other's faces a little bit. But
Yeah.
over time, I've grown to really enjoy the you had mentioned earlier, the stillness and
Yeah.
listening. It's such a powerful tool.
Yeah, they're really interesting. Like I love the scene between you and Jason at the end, I think is just such an impactful one where, you get to show off some of the that stunt work and that physicality that you guys both bring, and then also getting into such an emotionally intense uh climax for avoiding the spoilers of everything that happens there. Um it's such a great scene, and there's not a lot of dialogue that's kind of happening once you guys get going, but in those moments leading up to it, like you can really feel the internal struggle of both of you guys.
You actually touched on it, and I was searching for that, so thank you for reminding me. The dialogue was very there was limited dialogue for TL, and I realized at the time I didn't realize at the time, but now looking back, I go that was such a gift.
Like one of my favorite moments in the film is kind of that scene towards the end between you and Eloa, like Noel Eloa, um, when you guys are in that back room and it's so tense, everything that's happening outside of it, and you guys know exactly where things are going to go, and you have that moment where you're both looking at each other and it's so close on you, and the only word that's said in there is run. And it's like everything gets encapsulated from the whole arc of your character throughout the film, just in that one word, and just the way that it's, you can see that sadness on your face of everything that's transpired with, whether it's with, Brooke or Riley or Derek's character and everyone else. It really, you can feel the weight of it. And like you said, it's like there's no dialogue that needs to be said to convey that. It's just that acceptance that kind of comes out of that single word of like, yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna pony up here.
Yeah, and myself moving forward in this in the craft and in the career afterwards. That was to me. At the time I didn't realize just how much of a gift it really was. I know I've used that word a few times today, but really that it was to find that out earlier, sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
It was, it's really been something that I've tried to bring in.
One of the things that I always love to kind of end these chats with is just asking, and we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but maybe your answer's shifted, or maybe you got something else that maybe we missed earlier. But what's one thing that stands out to you as something that you learned during the process of making this film that you've kept as you've moved into some of these other projects?
I feel it mirrors quite a bit of the advice that's out there. Not to say that this is about to come off as advice by any means, but just it's being said many times because it is true, and it's just trusting yourself in this. And what I mean by that is just given a platform to do this at a time when the whole filming of it and doing of it internally, I was like, I felt quite a bit of imposter syndrome uh,
Mm.
doing it, and then having a chance to interact with everybody, and then finding the process along the way for that particular for Tommy Lee, and making his little discoveries like we had mentioned, which is less, you don't have to do too much, or you are enough moving forward and going. If something doesn't really feel, now there's a bit of a spidey sense in the work,
Yeah.
just by having the experience. You're like, oh, well, this doesn't necessarily feel right, so let's see how else we can get in and do it. But really trusting that your first instinct is usually the right one. This is a direct ripoff, so I'm going to try and not butcher it. Good actors realize that there's choices could be A, B, or C. Great actors realize that there's also D, E, and F choices. The best actors or the best artists and realize it was A the whole time. And that's I try to remember that.
I think that's fantastic advice. I'm going to use the word advice. Yeah. It's that was from Reece Presley. No one else has said it before. You heard it here first. But it's so true. I mean, how often, you get in your own head and you just start overthinking things, and then you're like, oh, but I need to try it a different way, and you get into all these different options, and you lose kind of the thread in that sense. So I think it's phenomenal advice for acting and in life. Well,
I would say, have to remember that sometimes.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and chatting about We Came to Wreck Everything. The film's incredible. If for some reason you're watching this and you haven't seen it yet, go watch it now. You'll see Reece along with a fantastic ensemble cast. The movie's great, and thank you again so much.
Okay.